Hello and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you how to complete the modified dropped double crochet stitch that I have highlighted on my Just Peachy slouchy hat pattern that you can find on my website. And I'm choosing to do two contrasting colors. The pattern that I use this for is for self-striping cake, and I worked this stitch working on the opposite sides, taking the yarn from each side and dropping it, and then picking up from the opposite side of the cake throughout my pattern. So it gave it a little bit of a different look because it was already self-striping. But for the purposes of the tutorial, I wanted to show you how to do this stitch working with solid colors because I think that highlights the stitch even a little bit more. So what I've done is I have done a foundation row. In this case, I've done half double crochets, and this stitch requires an even number of stitches on your foundation round to begin. And this stitch, as I've worked it, works this way when you're doing your work in the round rather than in the row. It would have a different appearance if we were working back and forth, turning our work. So taking our foundation row, I am going to do a slip stitch to that first stitch, and I'm going to pick up my new color. All right, so now I'm going to be working this row with my new contrasting color, and I'm going to chain 4, and this is going to be a round of filet crochet. Basically what this is a double crochet chain 1, skipping a stitch in between. This chain 4 at the beginning actually counts as my first double crochet plus my chain 1. Then you're going to skip the next stitch. So this counts as a stitch. We're going to skip that stitch, and we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, and repeat that pattern all the way around. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next, all the way around this row. Now, if you've worked that round correctly and you had the correct number of stitches to start out with and an even number, you're going to end up with your last stitch would be your stitch that you would skip, and then you would work into that chain 4 from the beginning of the round, and you're going to slip stitch at the top of the chain 3, and this is where you're going to carry your work. So you dropped your first color, and you're going to pick it back up again. So slip stitch through both. And what ends up happening is you have this little, you see this here, that from carrying that up that chain 3, there's a little bit of a leftover piece of yarn that's just going to be tight in your work. You don't need to worry about it. Since this is not reversible, you don't need to be concerned with that, as no one will see that. And so we're going to work the next round, and how you work this is, and that's why I call this the modified drop double. the stitch that you skipped from that last round, you're going to be working into. But you're going to be working into it from the front of that chain 1 in between each stitch. The regular drop double would enclose that chain 1. You'd work your double crochet over it. I'm working it in front of it. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to single crochet in that same stitch, and then we're going to double crochet in that skipped stitch from the previous round in front of the chain 1. So double crochet, then we're going to single crochet in the post, double crochet post from that previous round. We're going to double crochet in that skipped stitch in front of the chain 1 and single crochet in the top of the next double crochet post. So look at that, how pretty that is already. I love it. It gives us a great texture. It puffs that double crochet out, pushes it out just the tiniest little bit from your work, giving it a really nice texture. So we're going to continue on. Alright, so I've reached the end of the round, and don't forget your last stitch is going to be a double crochet in that skipped stitch from the previous round. So you're ending on a double crochet, then you're going to be slip stitching into that first single crochet that you did from the round, dropping the color that you're working with and picking up your new color, slip stitching those together. And now I'm ready to start my fillet row again. And again, this is the chain 4, which counts as my first double crochet plus the chain 1. We're going to skip a stitch and then double crochet in the next. This is where you want to be careful. For whatever reason, it seems that people want to double crochet into that double crochet. So this one from your last row, there's this mental block. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to double crochet into that one. No, you're going to skip it because that is not skipping a stitch if you double crochet into that. So you're wanting to, actually you'll be skipping it and you'll be double crocheting into the single crochet from the previous round. And then chaining 1, skipping a stitch, double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next. And you'll repeat that same pattern all the way around that row. All right, I've reached the end of my round, and don't forget, you're going to want to chain 1. Sometimes you have a tendency of you get to the end of the round and you just want to slip stitch in. Remember, double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 from your same row. Same round. You're going to drop that working yarn, you're going to pick up the one from the previous round, slip stitch and join. And now we're going to repeat that pattern of the chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, double crochet in the skipped stitch from the previous row, single crochet into that double crochet post, double crochet in front of the chain 1 in that skipped stitch, single crochet again, double in front, single crochet, double in front. Alright, so I have completed a multiple of rounds here, and you can see, look how pretty that is. It just gives a pop of color. It those double crochets that are worked in front of those chain stitches just bump out just the littlest bit there, just enough to give it a little bit extra texture. Working in a worsted weight like this, this is a very dense pattern, working with the larger weight. And golly, look at the inside. Now, this was not designed to be reversible, the pattern that I did for the hat, and so hence I carried the yarn up. But if you did truly want to make a pattern using this stitch, that would be reversible, because I absolutely love that on the back side of it. You could certainly cut the colors each row, each round, and weave those in. You'd have quite a bit of ends to weave in at the end, but I think it would be worth it if you wanted to make this reversible, because that side is really pretty. But even this side here, I really love it. And it would work for a lot of different applications. Again, using this stitch the way it is, it only gives you this look if you're working it in the round, not by the row. And I wanted to show you, this is the pattern that I made. I used this stitch for my Just Peachy Slouchy, and I worked it with a Karen cupcake. The self-striping cakes that Karen makes for smaller projects, really for hats with the pom-pom attached. And it is a smaller weight. It's a weight 3 instead of a 4, like this would be. So I wanted to actually use a more dense stitch to give it a little more weight for a hat. And so that works perfectly for this application. And you can see that by working the ends, the two ends of the cake from either end, it gives it a little bit of a different appearance than it would if you were just using one strand going back and forth and it's striped this way. So it just gives it a fun little different appearance. And but then again, I really like the way that it looks in two solid colors. So I hope this was helpful for you all. You can always visit me at nanascraftyhome.com, send me an email message, or I'm also on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And I love to see your projects that you make with my patterns. I hope that you all have a great day, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.